Does a dignified life fit in your wallet? A capabilities approach to defining and measuring poverty. We hear about it on the news, in politics, and social media. We see it on city sidewalks through vacant eyes and a sign that reads, "Homeless and hungry, please help." These are the things that shaped our understanding of poverty, but we never really considered what being in poverty actually means. There are numerous definitions to this question. What is poverty? Some say it is income deprivation, lack of basic necessities, and inability for upward economic growth. We choose to define poverty as when one or more central capability is not met. Poverty is not having the central capabilities to live a dignified life. What does this mean, you ask? Don't worry, we'll get to that. The current system in use today is a measure defined by the Census Bureau called the OPM, or the Official Poverty Measurement. The OPM examines the resources of a household and compares them to a threshold. Looking at household resources, the OPM takes into account gross annual pre-tax income and cash aid from the government. The threshold it creates is equivalent to 3 times the cost spent on food. It was developed based on the finding that 1/3 of after-tax income is spent on food. The threshold is adjusted for household makeup and yearly for inflation. The main advantage to this measurement is the ease associated with attaining these quantitative values. However, there is a lot that the OPM leaves out of its simple equation. The measure is horribly outdated and does not reflect current economic realities. For example, the food basket is now about 1/6 of after-tax income. In addition to being outdated, this measure does not account for cohabitating partners in the definition of household, geographical differences in expenses, non-cash in-kind benefits, or near-cash benefits. When these forms of welfare are not accounted for, we cannot see if these interventions are working effectively to help relieve poverty. It also does not take into account non-discretionary expenses.
The OPM is also a binary measurement, meaning that someone who falls only a couple dollars above the poverty line would not receive any government support. Finally, the focus of the OPM is all about the dollars, but poverty is also about quality of life. We cannot tell someone's quality of life from the number of dollars in his or her pocket. For example, let's look at the Smith family and the Jones family. Both families are making the same income, and both fall below the poverty line according to the OPM. The Smith family receives a housing subsidy as an in-kind benefit, while the Jones family lives in a more expensive housing area and does not. The Jones family also has to pay for child care so that both Mr. and Mrs. Jones can go to work, while the Smith family's child is old enough to go to school. Based on the OPM, the Smiths and Jones are at the same level of economic disadvantage, while in reality, the Jones are struggling more than the Smiths. Robert Rector, the Heritage Foundation's Senior Research Fellow in Domestic Policy, argues that the way media portrays poverty is exaggerated and incorrect. His goal is to assess quality of life more accurately so that government resources are not misallocated. While his measure is based off of household amenities, a large oversimplification, we agree that poverty is not always portrayed accurately. One reason for this is that the OPM statistics only consider monetary values. To address some of the OPM's weaknesses, the SPM was created. This chart shows the resources considered. They are compared to a threshold created by calculating 33% of spending on FCSU and multiplying it by 1.2 for other expenses. Those with SPM resource totals below the threshold level are below poverty line. With the SPM, adjustments are made for geographical differences and over time for standards of living.
Let's look at the Smiths again. Now that their in-kind benefits are accounted for, they rise above the poverty line defined by the SPM. But where the SPM falls short can be brought to light when we take a closer look at Molly's education. Molly goes to unaccredited high school with a high dropout rate and has dangerous walk to and from school each day. Does she still have the opportunity to live a dignified life? We don't think so. This brings us to the capabilities approach in defining poverty. Amartya Sen and Martha Nussbaum discuss this approach in their literature on poverty. Sen describes the capabilities approach as being concerned with evaluating advantage in terms of a person's ability to achieve various valuable functionings as part of living. Functionings refer to an individual's beings or doings. Nussbaum uses capabilities to question whether people have the substantial freedoms to live a dignified life. A combined capability refers to having an internal ability and the means to carry that ability out. An individual, for example, needs both the developed ability of literacy and protection under civil rights in order to vote. Nussbaum differs from Sen in her creation of a list of central capabilities. Central capabilities are the combinations of functionings one should have in order to live a dignified life. These 10 capabilities constitute her list. These are discursive measurements, meaning they allow us to discern how individuals are doing with words and discuss one's fundamental entitlement. As stated before, many things cannot be measured in numbers.
Our goal in creating a definition and measurement of poverty is to find the best way to respect the dignity of all human beings. We chose to define and measure poverty through the capabilities approach. Poverty is having one or more central capability not met. We support the idea of having a list of central capabilities for several reasons. For one, it takes the very theoretical, abstract idea and makes it more concrete and understandable. More importantly, it is dangerous to leave it open to interpretation because so much could be left out. That being said, our list differs in some way from Nussbaum's. Our list of central capabilities is designed to be more measurable and less abstract. While there is still a lot of gray area to our list, our goal is to create a building block that will define the most practical black and white capabilities to be measured. We will proceed to explain briefly each capability from our list and potential thresholds to be used in measurement. These measurements are a combination of discursive and quantitative methods. Our list starts with life, having the ability to live up to the average life expectancy in the United States. An annually updated life expectancy for the nation would be used as a threshold and compared to the average of a district or neighborhood as determined by the state. Next is bodily health. We kept this category regarding adequate food, shelter, and health from Nussbaum's list. This capability is encompassed well by FCSU, so we are using the SPM as a threshold for measuring it. Personal safety. This is the ability to travel safely from one place to another and to be free of the threat of sexual violence. This is obviously not always measurable within a home due to lack of consistent reporting, but reports that are filed would be used to state the condition of one's personal safety. A measure for personal safety within a state's control is providing affordable, safe transportation systems in local areas.
Education. All kids should have the capability to receive a good education from preschool through high school in order to develop literacy, basic math and science skills, and the ability to exercise thought and reflection. To us, this looks like free pre-K through high school education and full accreditation for such schools. We also take into account intergenerational income persistence within our capabilities approach. For example, if parents did not have the capabilities to receive a substantial education during their lifetime, the capability for their child to start learning at an early age is also diminished. Our approach could help start all kids on an even playing field going into elementary school. Constitutional rights. This includes freedom of religion, expression, speech, assembly, political participation, the right against unreasonable search and seizure, and the means to take action against shortcomings of these rights through fair representation in court. This also includes equal protection of the laws for all citizens regardless of race, sexual orientation, etc.
Equality of property rights and employment stems from Nussbaum's control over one's environment capability. The lack of this capability can be explained through the following examples. Mr. Jones loses his job, and the Jones family must move. They are now on a voucher program for housing and attempt to find residents in a particular apartment complex. When presenting their voucher, the landlord denies them. This is an example of inequality in regards to housing opportunities. The existence of a checkoff box on job applications for if one has committed a felony contributes to inequality of occupational opportunity. Most employers sift through applications and immediately discard any with this box checked. Recreation or play. Kids should have the capability to enjoy recreation. The reason we include this just for kids is because different forms of play are integral to a child's cognitive development. Once the child is an adult, forms of recreation can be encapsulated more in areas such as religion, assembly, and expression. A threshold for judging the capability to play could be the inclusion of parks in local areas, manned by staff or security with modes of transportation provided to get there.
If we want to measure poverty and take action against it, we do not want anything in the definition that cannot be directly addressed within the power of local or national government. That being said, we expect the fulfillment of the central capabilities listed to increase other aspects of an individual's well-being that contribute to a dignified life. For example, while Nussbaum's central capabilities list includes emotions, a feeling such as Allison's complex of inferiority cannot be directly measured and combated. However, one with the capabilities of education and freedom of expression, such as she had, may allow that individual to fight against that emotional deficit. There are many other connections, like an increase in rest and critical reflection, that will be made because This list of capabilities is very fertile, meaning an increase in one can prompt an increase in another. This definition and measure is designed as a building block to begin the process of creating measurable capabilities. We acknowledge that a concrete list may be biased and that there are faults within these capabilities. There won't always be a clear-cut way of allocating resources to someone considered impoverished by our definition. Because there are some capabilities from the original list that are difficult to measure, they are not directly listed in our set. This leaves gaps in what a fully dignified life might constitute, but as stated before, the overlapping connection between capabilities will hopefully address this. At the end of the day, here's the goal: to value the life of each individual.